This is this between us.
The number one podcast in the world.
This is
the JBU.Show featuring Austin
from the Miller Talk Podcast.
ALLAN,
The American Sincerest.
and now your host,
Cam Allen.
All right, how's it going, everybody? My name is Chris, and this is the JBU.Show. And we got a lot to talk about tonight. A lot of things on my mind, a lot of stuff going on. Of course, the war is all-consuming right now, so that is the main topic of the evening. We're going to look at a few different angles, try and expand on whether this is actually good for us or not, whether we're fighting this war for Israel or not, and what do we get out of this? Whether we're fighting it for Israel or not, what do we get out of this? We've looked at the history already. If you didn't see that, go back 2 nights, and the episode is titled, This Started in 1776, because it absolutely did. We're also going to look at a little more detail briefly on the history tonight, more recent history in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. But some new details have emerged too. Russia is now helping Iran with targeting, which is obviously a concern. China might be helping as well. But it's interesting to me, first and foremost, just how absolutely disconnected from reality the people that don't like America's hand in this, how disconnected they are. So, of course, we'll be mocking some people as well tonight. But other things going on in the news that we're going to get to. We didn't really talk about Noam yesterday. I mean, we announced the news that she was removed from her position. However, she was not fired. She was moved to a new position. We'll take a look at that and see what she's going to be doing. And what else do we have here? We have a post about the Democratic Party and its fracturing. We may or may not get to that. California and its oil. My home state of Washington right now is trending, which is just absolutely, lovely, because it's trending, of course, for all the right reasons. Being a Democrat state, you can only imagine. But there are actually, what's interesting is it's not trending for particular things. Like, it's all different complaints about the vast array of insane things that Democrats are doing in this state. Yeah, nonetheless, also a United States Coast Guard rescue swimmer, Tyler Jaggers, has passed away in Washington today. He was doing a medical evacuation of a cargo ship, of a crew member from a cargo ship, and I don't know exactly what happened here. It looks like he was seriously injured while being deployed to a large vessel. After being transported to the hospital in Victoria, he was determined by doctors that he could not survive his injuries. So, make sure to pray for him. Here's a photo and a video of him during some training. This is obviously not of him getting injured. Go ahead and turn the volume down on that, because there's really no need to hear the helicopter whine. But that is him right there. A man that dedicated his life to, being there to save us. And as somebody that has commercial fished before and have been out in the open ocean with literally nobody except the people on the boat with me, knowing that these guys are there really brings you a peace of mind that you cannot get any other way. There are times when there are other ships around, especially when you're commercial fishing, right? Because when you're For example, we primarily fished tuna. That was like the main season that we focused on. And, when the tuna are coming through, all the boats are there. So people are around. But that's only, a couple days out of a couple months. And then it's just completely alone. And you might see another boat, every several days. You might see another boat. And they're out there. But the one thing you know for sure is if something happens, these guys will show up. And that is a extremely important thing to the guys out there on the water. So anyway, thank a local Coast Guard person today and keep Jesse in your prayers tonight. Anyway, let's see what we can get to here. Everything else is pretty much just complaining about different taxes that Washington's trying to pass through. Let's see. Let me get rid of this here. We got a little bit we can talk about New York if necessary. Young women are apparently also moving to the farther to the right. Just at a slower rate than men, which is interesting. It seems that everybody is moving away from the left right now. According to this article here, young women are not moving away from the far right, but rather moving closer to it, albeit at a slower pace than young men. This is the conclusion of the latest report by Javier Carbonell, is out of Paris, by the way, a researcher specializing in inequality. The far right and youth for the European Policy Center, a Brussels-based think tank. Far-right parties across Europe are eroding what was once pronounced gender divide in their electorates. He asserts, focusing on a significant minority of women who are shifting towards these parties, rejecting feminism and embracing traditional gender norms. The analyst reviewed data from the CIS, Eurostat, and the European election study, along with various papers. He identifies 3 reasons for the shift: the social conservative turn across all age groups, dissatisfaction with the labor market, and the far-right's ability to politicize that dissatisfaction. Carbonell cites the recent German elections as an example. In 2025, 26% of men under 25 voted for the far-right Alternative for Germany party. They're not far-right. They're just right. But in Europe, that is far-right now. Anyway, while 35% of young women voted for the left. However, he points out that while only 5% of young women voted for the AfD in 2021, that number tripled by 2025, with 14% of young women opting for Alice Weidel's party. Anti-establishment sentiment is also reflected in voting patterns. In Spain, after 8 years of progressive government, and a lot of good it's done for Spain, huh? Both groups are shifting to the right, with men doing much more intensely. A 40-decibel poll conducted in March showed that 25.8% of Generation Z women intend to vote for the ultra-nationalist party Vox, and 2.1% for the Se Acabó la Fiesta, the party's over, led by the anti-system figure Alves Perez. However, just a year earlier, in March 2025, 15.1% would have voted for Vox, while Perez's party would have remained stable at 2.1%. So that's an increase of 10% for the right-wing party. Conversely, Carbonell, who is also a professor of sciences Po University in Paris, shows that in the United Kingdom, the Green Party is attracting young people, which he attributes to 13 years of conservative government. Yeah, it probably has something to do with it. It also has to do with the fact that young people are dumb. Particularly teenagers. The shift is also visible in attributes toward the feminist movement. Carbonell explains there's criticism of the economic system and therefore criticism of the political system that sustains it. For many people, especially in Spain, feminism is part of the current political system. One of its main rallying cries, the analyst believes, the equality is accepted among young people and that it is not true that young people are more sexist than older generations. What is true is that they are more anti-feminist. That is absolutely fact, both there and here. He believes the moment is in a cycle of demobilization, just as it went through a period of mobilization with the massive March of 2018 and the Me Too movement. Carbonell outlined some key elements of the far-right strategy, including promoting female figures such as Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni or AfD leader Alice Weidel, symbolic leaders to defend themselves against accusations of sexism. Yeah, that's not why, but okay, whatever. They also blame migrant populations for violence against women, as if inequality were solely a foreign issue. You notice how they have to slide their own ideology in there. They blame them for it because that is overwhelmingly the reason for it. Migrants in Europe, it's not the same in America, but migrants in Europe are responsible for like 75% of rapes. 75%. And yet the leftists are still going, but the 25% are from Europeans. I don't care if it's 2%. Why would you import it? Just doesn't make sense. Anyway, it continues. Among the researchers' recommendations is addressing the broader economic stagnation that is radicalizing his generation, improving job security, wages, and long-term wealth accumulation. The campaign of Zoran Mandami, the newly elected mayor of New York City, is cited repeatedly as a success story for attracting a broad range of young people by addressing their concerns regardless of ideology or socioeconomic status. You know what? Let's just go ahead and stop right there and turn over to Mandami and see how that's going. The big success story that is Zoran Mandami. Mandami and Hochul team up to provide taxpayer-funded childcare for illegals. Oh, the illegals could get welfare. Democrats in New York are at it again, this time providing childcare to illegal aliens, all at the expense of the taxpayer. The New York City government website posted a news release Tuesday saying that Governor Kathy Hochul and Mayor Zoran Mandami have announced free childcare for 2-year-olds across several school districts in the city regardless of zip code, income, or immigration status. Translation: New York tax dollars are going toward free babysitting for illegals. The program will have 2,000 free seats, but plans to expand in the future. Hochul's office put out their own release that read, Governor Kathy Hochul today joined Mayor Mandami to announce the first major milestone in their plan to deliver free childcare for 2-year-olds in New York City. This is a direct result of the governor's $1.2 billion commitment to support early childhood care and early education efforts in New York City, which includes a significant allocation of $73 million to establish the first 2,000 2K seats in the city, on top of the funding from the state to strengthen the city's existing 3K infrastructure to achieve its promise to serve all families across the city. With continued state support, the state's investment in 2K is expected to grow to $425 million by next year. The economic incompetence of Hochul and Mandami is on full display. This program is, of course, not free. It is free for the people who should be deported, but it's very expensive for the Americans who pay the taxes and obey the law. Footage from their news conference was later posted to social media platform X. Mandami told The Room, "What we are rolling out today is for parents of 2-year-olds in the neighborhoods that we listed. It covers the neighborhoods that I have said, as well as parts of other neighborhoods that are covered with school districts. All that is required is that parents live within that school district no matter the amount of money that they make, the occupation they have, their immigration status. So long as they live there, they can apply." Oh, good. So even immigrants that are millionaires can take advantage of the taxpayer childcare. Here's footage
What
of
we
him
are
saying
rolling
that.
out today is for parents of 2-year-olds in the neighborhoods that we have listed. It covers the neighborhoods that I've said, as well as parts of other neighborhoods that are covered within the school districts the chancellor said. All that is required is that parents live within that school district, no matter the amount of money they make, the occupation they have, their immigration status. So long as they live there, they can apply. The application process will become open sometime in early summer. And then next year, we will be announcing additional neighborhoods and school districts that this will apply to. It will extend beyond these sets of districts. And one thing that I can tell you for certain is that it will also extend into Staten Island.
That's such a cute side. Childcare for all. Look at that smile. That is the smile of a Disney evil villain. Anyway, New York Democrats' boundless stupidity comes from no surprise to anyone following the news cycle. But consider the other consequences of this initiative. It is encouraging families to hand their children over to government caregivers in the most formative years. During his inaugural speech, Mandami spoke about replacing the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. Yeah, how about no? No, go fuck yourself. This must be the collectivism he was referring to. Perhaps New Yorkers should have asked the Russian people, who were sent to the gulags by the millions, about the warmth of collectivism. The Chinese, who starved under Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward, might also know something about it. New York has chosen an arrogant, lowbrow communist lacking in tact, eloquence, or any understanding of history to lead them. And he's just getting started. There's a further follow-up here on Mandami from the Washington Examiner. Champagne socialism forced to raise its glass to economic reality. Go ahead and take a quick look at that and see exactly what they're talking about here. That's my way of stalling. There we go. In New York City, Champagne socialist talking points are starting to meet real-world consequences. Mayor Mandami is now floating the idea of a 10% property tax increase, which means rent increases, to fund his social programs and plug a looming budget hole. The city he leads is already the most expensive place to live in the country, with families everywhere still trying to catch up to higher costs. A massive tax hike like this proposal would only make things worse, especially for middle-class New Yorkers. Mandami's threat to raise the property tax rate insults not only those who live within the 5 boroughs, but also every rural American. New York City already receives 55% of its revenue from federal aid and subsidies. Let me read that again. New York City already receives 55% of its revenue from federal aid and subsidies. 55%. Why are we funding this nonsense? What are you getting by funding the rich people in New York and their socialist programs? What are you getting for that, taxpayers? Relying on taxpayers nationwide to meet its massive budgetary obligations. It's worth noting that Mandami's proposed budget for New York City is $10 billion larger than that of the entire state of Florida's budget. That kind of spending doesn't go unnoticed by taxpayers footing the bill. During the midterm election year, politicians are making affordability a keystone issue among constituents, leading state legislators across the nation to focus on property tax reforms to help reduce the cost of living. This is likely a reality that is on Governor Kathy Hochul's mind as she seeks re-election in November. And Hochul isn't alone in feeling that pressure. Across the country, lawmakers are moving in the opposite direction of Mandami, balancing their state and city budgets through property tax reforms and reduced spending. The socialism light approach of levying regressive taxes that hurt lower-income Americans the most is exactly what one should expect from a 21st century progressive policymaker who have the luxury of pretending that economic reality is a social construct. Most states, especially red ones, want no part of it. State lawmakers are prioritizing affordability and lowering property taxes by using familiar tools, such as homestead exemptions and expanding property tax credits to shield more of a home's value from taxation. Other states are looking at reforms such as caps on annual assessment increases, limits on year-over-year collection growth, and inflation-linked restraints to make property taxes more predictable and prevent bills from rising faster than incomes. Still, Other states are requiring clear notices, creating processes to challenge assessments, and in some cases mandating voter approval before tax increases. Efforts reflected in recent reforms in Texas, Kansas, and Ohio. What do those states have in common? Another example is found in Tennessee, which is moving toward a bill that would require voter approval for any property tax increases outside of the already agreed upon limit. A Beacon Center poll last month found that 90% of Tennessee voters support it. No one should ever face the loss of their home because they can't pay rent to the government, Georgia House Speaker John Burns said last month. These examples of property tax reform across the nation share a common thread. They treat property tax relief as a cost of living priority and a fairness issue. And they start from the premise that the family home should be protected, not treated as a default backstop when state and city budgets don't add up. This is exactly what New York's current conversation lacks. And yes, Americans notice. They vote with their feet. When leaders raise the cost of staying put, they shouldn't be surprised when more people decide they can't afford to remain. A family that buys a home shouldn't feel as though it's forever waiting for the next assessment to decide whether they can afford to stay. And Champagne socialists shouldn't be trusted to fairly balance a budget. Brooke Mendina is the Vice President of Communications at State Policy Network. That is the writer of the article. So basically, New York is going exactly as we predicted. All right. Do we want to move towards the main topic tonight, Trump and Netanyahu and this war in Iran, or do we want to go a little farther on some of these other stories here first? I think what we'll do is one more story here that is like semi-related to Iran, and then we'll step into it and get the main topic out of the way, and then we can clean up some of these other stories if there's time later. This one comes from the Daily Mail. It's a couple days old now, but Gavin Newsom slammed for bizarre response to Trump's Iran attack. We're now 6 days in. California Governor Gavin Newsom is facing fierce backlash after critics accused him of talking out of both sides of his mouth in a blistering response to President Donald Trump's unprecedented strike on Iran. Newsom's statement both called for the end of Tehran's regime while condemning the military operation targeting it as illegal and dangerous. Newsom posted a sharply worded message on X in the hours following the coordinated U.S.-Israel assault on Iranian targets. The corrupt and repressive Iranian regime must never have nuclear weapons. The leadership of Iran must go, Newsom wrote. But that does not justify the President of the United States engaging in a illegal, dangerous war that will risk the lives of American service members and our friends without justification to the American people. President Trump is putting Americans at risk abroad because he is unpopular at home. Within minutes, critics pounced, arguing the governor's position was contradictory. Which one is it, Gavin? They can't have nuclear weapons and need to be removed, or the operation is not justified, one user shot back. Pick one stance, please. If you want to run for president, you should get comfortable making bold statements on where you stand. Another user defended Trump's authority to authorize strikes, writing, not illegal, but you'd have to be able to read the Constitution in order to know that. A third commenter urged the government to back the country during a time of conflict. I know this is hard for you, Gavin, so let's try saying it together. I support America. And this is where I've been at this whole time. Whether you agree or disagree, standing against the country, especially immediately like this, it's just gross. Others mocked him more bluntly. Iran is going to be free from before California, one user quipped. Another added, what's the better course of action? Asking the leader of Iran to please resign? Maybe sending a fruit basket? The exchange unfolded against a backdrop of, well, actually, I think pallets of cash would work better, but backdrop of stunning escalation in the Middle East. Iran retaliated with missile and drone strikes across the region. Explosions rocked cities from Tel Aviv to the Gulf. Israeli emergency services reported that an Iranian missile strike killed a woman in Tel Aviv and injured about 20 others. That guy is scary looking. Look at this. I don't know what this video is about, but it was in my face while I was reading that, which is why I paused. That dude needs some sleep. And probably some less drugs. Let's hear what he sounds like real quick.
Here, I gave him the dates. I told him who I was going to be working for. I gave him my phone number. I gave him my email. And they were supposed to warn us if anything was going to happen, and they never did.
We reached out to the State Department on his behalf. They told us Americans needing help should call the State Department hotline.
Right then. Okay. Explosions rocked cities from Tel Aviv. Authorities in Abu Dhabi said Pakistani civilian was killed by falling debris. Iran's Red Crescent reported at least 201 people killed and more than 700 wounded in the strikes. The Iranian judiciary said one strike hit a school in the south that killed 108 people, though independent verification was not immediately possible. I'm starting to not believe at all that there was ever kids there. We have not seen one body of a kid. And normally when, as gross as it is, normally when kids are killed, they have no problem parading the bodies in front of the cameras. They're all over it. Oftentimes, those bodies are wiggling and moving, but that's beside the point. That's at least what Palestinians used to like to do. Or Hamas, I mean. But we didn't see one. Not one. Not even an adult body in that supposed school strike. And it just so happens that every other building on the block of that school was a military building. So it seems like maybe they took an old school and used it for military purposes. Anyway, it was by the Israeli military's own account. The Iranian judiciary said one strike hit a school, though independent verification was not immediately possible. It was, by the Israeli military's own account, the largest air raid in its history, and the first U.S. military action of this scale, apparently aimed at toppling a foreign government since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Officially, it is larger than the 2003 invasion of Iraq, according to Donald Trump anyway. Israel's Army Chief Lieutenant General Ayal Zamir said that the operation was taking place at a completely different scale than the 12-day war it fought against Iran in June, which the U.S. briefly joined. We did one raid. An Israeli military statement said it was the largest military raid in the history of its air force. Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Syria, and the UAE and Israel all closed their airspaces to civilian traffic, at least in part. Multiple airlines canceled flight to the Middle East. Khomeini, one of the world's most evil people in history, is dead, Trump said in a statement. Trump vowed no let-up in the strikes until the fall of the Islamic Republic as he urged security forces to stand down. This is the single greatest chance for the Iranian people to take back their country. Speaking before Trump, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said of Khomeini that there were many signs that this tyrant is no longer alive, and said to Iranians, "This is your time to join forces to overthrow the regime and to secure your future." The Israeli army said that Ali Shamkhani, the top advisor to Khomeini, and the head of Iran's powerful Revolutionary Guard, General Mohammad Popkour, also were killed. One apparent survivor, Ali Lajani, head of Iran's Supreme National Council, vowed defiance. This brave soldiers and the great nation of Iran will teach the unforgettable lesson to international oppressors, he said. Yeah, whatever. Okay. No surprise the Democrats have been all over throwing America under the bus because of their hatred of Trump. But that is, in fact, what they are doing. Now, let's talk about this war, where we're at, and let's take a look at some of the criticisms and see what it all means and whether or not we're fighting this war for Israel or for ourselves or what. Let's start here. Protesters chant "Death to America, Death to Israel" at the New York City vigil for Khomeini. There's a photo of these protesters. Solidarity with Iran. literally no other signs that I can read. Yeah, nothing. Just a visual for Khomeini there. Protesters in New York City chant death to America, death to Israel in Farsi at a protest honoring... Oh, so they were too pussy to say it in English. At a protest honoring late Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei in New York City. Deport every single one of them. I don't care if they're American. The Founding Fathers did not tolerate traitors. Chanting death to America makes you, by definition, a traitor. That's my opinion. I don't see any reason why we would risk it. Why would we keep anyone in this country that is threatening its downfall? It is threatening your death and your children's death. The protesters set up images of Khomeini on the table alongside flowers and candles, hold flags showing Jeffrey Epstein's face, and hold signs that say solidarity with Iran. That's a weird inclusion there. We must live like the Ayatollah did, with his heart for his people. Oh, so murder people in the streets. Got it. And we must die like he did. I mean, if they want to die by airstrike, I don't see why not give them their last wish. I'm not saying that they should. I'm saying if they're asking to. I don't know. I mean, somebody have a right to ask for it? I don't see why not. As speaker tells the crowd, Iranian counter-protesters chant USA, terrorist, and Bibi thank you from across the middle police barricade. Why would you be chanting thank you, Bibi? Like, fuck Bibi. The post-protesters chant death to America, death to Israel at a New York City vigil appeared first on the Times of Israel. Of course it did. All right. Let's turn to some criticisms, and I don't know, should we, let's see. Well, let's take a look real quick at this report here from, who is this? CNN, on Russia apparently jumping into the war and providing intelligence for Iran.
Russia is helping Iran target Americans in the Middle East, and China could soon get involved too. We're told by multiple sources that Russia has been providing Iran with intelligence about the locations and movements of American troops, ships, and aircraft, marking Moscow's first known involvement in this war. Now, it's hard to say just how important the Russian intelligence has been to the Iranians, but several Iranian drones have hit locations where U.S. troops have been in recent days, including in Kuwait, where 6 American service members were killed by an Iranian drone on Sunday. China could also be getting ready to help Iran financially and with missile components, according to our sources, but they have been more cautious in their support for the regime. Russia is helping Iran target.
And that brings us to the first, most important aspect, I think, of this. Hang on just one second here. Let me write it down. And that is that Russia and China, we have proven now, definitively, between Venezuela and Iran, to any ally of Russia and to any ally of China, that they're not coming to help them. That BRICS is not NATO. They will not offer any support. I mean, bare minimal support, as we see. Now, 7 days later, when almost the entire regime is gone, probably because that's how long it took for somebody that is still alive to actually reach out to them, they're providing some intelligence. They might be sending some missile components, but not even missiles themselves. Why? Because they don't dare risk offending us to the point we decide to just hit them. Because they know they can't. All right. It's hard to underestimate the value of showing that to allies of China and Russia, such as India, for example, who has long gone back and forth between allying with China and allying with us. They might think twice now, knowing China doesn't have their back. We've helped Ukraine way more. And Ukraine, remember, was friendly with us, but they're not part of NATO. We had no official alliances with them. In fact, our official alliance said that we would remain neutral with Ukraine. And we have done more for Ukraine than China has done for Russia or for Iran or Venezuela combined. Another aspect of this war, AOC, Omar, and other squad representatives among 53 House Democrats that voted against affirming Iran as a terror sponsor. Absolutely incredible. Far-left squad representatives AOC and Ilhan Omar were among dozens of House Democrats this week that voted against reaffirming Iran as the largest state sponsor of terrorism. The resolution, introduced by Representative Brian Mast of Florida, passed 372 to 53 Thursday, with only Democrats opposing the non-binding measure, which also declared that Iran provides substantial financial and military support to groups including Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. Lefty reps Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, Summer Lee, Maxine Waters, and Al Green, along with New York's Yvette Clarke and Niada Valenquez. You notice something interesting about all of those except Al Green? You can get mad at me for saying it, but it is the truth. We're among the lawmakers joining Ocasio-Cortez and Omar in voting against the resolution. The White House noted that the State Department of both parties have declared since 1984 that Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism. Just 3 years ago, a resolution condemning the terrorist Iranian regime passed the House by a vote of 420 to 1, because Republicans are consistent in their views no matter who's president, Democrats or not. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt wrote on X, now 53 House Democrats just refused to reaffirm that Iran remains the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. Trump derangement syndrome melts their brains. Resolution further stated that Iran poses a direct and persistent threat to the United States and is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of American citizens. Iranian-backed proxy militias are responsible for the deaths of at least 603 U.S. service members in Iraq, roughly 1 in every 6 American combat fatalities. Measure continued, adding that the regime has amassed a large stockpile of enriched uranium and continues to block access to undeclared sites in Iran affiliated with their big ambitious nuclear weapons program. Representative Sarah Jacobs of California indicated that she voted against the measure because of her opposition to President Trump's military operation against Iran. Iran is obviously a state sponsor of terrorism. There's no debate on that, Jacobs wrote on X. Okay, then why is there a problem voting for the measure? The issue is that Republicans are using this claim that Iran is harboring al-Qaeda, sound familiar, and is a direct and persistent threat to the U.S. so they can legally justify this reckless war. Yeah, except nobody's come to Congress asking them to declare war. So you had no problem affirming this before. Now you do now. Why? Trump. Notice they cannot say their reasoning for doing anything without the word Trump. And this in part goes to why I'm bringing up this, why I'm kind of mentioning some of these more peripheral things regarding the war now that we're 6 days in, 7 to 8 days in, whatever. And going through this, because the goal from the beginning with progressives and Trump has been to divide the base, divide MAGA, divide the America First Republicans on anything and everything. Everything Trump does, end of the world. Every single thing that they can put pressure on, they put pressure on, no matter how ridiculous, no matter how small. We refer to that as Trump derangement syndrome. And at this point, it does seem like more of a reflex than even a conscious thing that they do. But this is one of the first times that there has been significant disagreement in the Republican Party. Nothing wrong with that. But there are a lot of people that are allowing it to be used as a tearing issue, and even suggesting, like the moron Fuentes, that he's going to vote for Democrats now. Even if you hate this one particular thing that Trump's done, what about everything else? No, none of it's perfect. But everything that Trump has done has been good. Not great, but good. Everything that Biden did, everything that Obama did, everything that Hillary would have done, and everything that Kamala would have done. Bad. Very bad. Well, go ahead. Go for him. Whatever. And the fact is, Trump has tried to do most of these things. He's been stopped by courts and by Congress. We should be mad at Congress, for sure. I'm not mad at Trump. These people hate America, and I will always side with somebody that loves America first. Side note, some good news. A judge has finally ruled Kilmar Abrega Garcia's final removal order does stand, and despite all legal drama, he will be deported. The MS-13 member and alleged smuggler is one step closer to getting shipped out for good. So that's awesome. Iranians are at the point of desperation now where they are posting videos of their own ships being sunk, as we see here. And they're repainting them basically to look like World War II American ships. We don't often use the two-tone paint anymore, but they wanted to make it look like a World War II American ship, even though this is actually an Iranian ship that is being sunk. And they claim that they sunk the American ship. Still not a single American ship has been sunk. Not even like a refueling boat. That blast right there is the munitions of the ship exploding. What usually takes down a ship. That is usually what ends or leads to the actual takedown of a ship. Unless, of course, you have American munitions, which just blow the whole ship out of the water, as we saw yesterday. Which is, just absolutely awesome. I want to check in with the professor and see what is going on there. Just a second here. Got to go through and do my my mid-show repost here. All right. Let me find the latest by the professor, and let's check in on what he is saying today. Here he is. I love these lessons from Professor Predictive History. I forget his name. Jing.
Game theory, right? Guys, this is kind of weird because what this suggests is that religion is more important. Okay? So, what's the point of game theory if people don't play by game theory? if they're just religious fanatics? All right? And the answer is this. And the answer is, it's still game theory. But the problem is that what you
It's not really game theory. It's just, the thing is, it's really still game theory.
think the game that you think they're playing is not the game they're playing. The reward that you think they want is not the reward that they want, okay?
Oh,
We
okay.
think in terms of material things, okay? So money, resources, power. We think that the war is being fought.
He said resources, but I think he wrote down envy. Envy.
Over these things. And it's not.
Oh, energy.
All right?
Got you.
The grand secret, the grand reveal of the semester, of this course is this. The real power, the real currency in the world is not money. It is human consciousness. Or basically attention. Okay?
What?
This is it, guys, okay? When you understand this idea, you understand everything.
Oh.
But this is a hard idea to understand, so I'll need some time to actually explain this, all right?
Yeah, I bet you will.
This war is being fought to control the consciousness of the human race, because it is our consciousness that creates reality itself. That's the source of all wealth and all power in this world. Okay? That's why this is happening. In other words, this is a war not just for Iran. This is a war not just for the Middle East. It is a war for the soul of humanity. This is what's happening, guys. All right? This is what World War III is. World War III is meant to be the last and final war of all human history. Because whoever wins this war will control the very soul of human existence for all eternity. Okay? That is the end game. And I know this is hard to understand, but as we go along, I will explain this to you. Okay? That is the grand secret behind the world. Everything that you believe, everything that you see today, it's all an illusion. The reality, the truth, is that consciousness is a source of all power of reality itself. And so this is a war for human consciousness. It's a war for the very soul of humanity.
Professor Zhang. His full lecture is available on YouTube. By the way, he's not teaching anybody, if you weren't aware. It is very clearly an empty room. But, yeah. Good news is, if you didn't understand a word he just said, because you don't understand human consciousness, apparently, he actually has a acolyte now. I believe it's his nephew, has decided to pick up in his uncle's footsteps.
Okay,
and is
Professor
now
Zhang
explaining better to us than his uncle. So he's breaking it down even further than his uncle did for you. Here you go.
Okay, Professor Zhang here. First thing, asymmetry. What is asymmetry? China invade Taiwan. You know, with them straw shooters like pew pew, because they're cheap to make, $50. And you shoot down with all the ICBMs, the CBMs, the MBCs, and the NPCs, 3 million. One of these things. And if it misses, 5-6 billion. The natives of China, you know, the people that got the fire dance going, right? Goo goo, gaga. Because the Taiwanese, they control the globe. We call it Pax Taiwana. Now, we got here, Zhongguo, cornered from all sides. You see the ocean? That's funded by the Sea Party rebels. Yes, we're talking about pirates. We also got the Chinese, you know, the people, they all messed up since the first thing they do is to call up a century. Yes, 100 years. So they unite all of the Chinese aunties across the world, make a flea market, sell the cheap stuff. Now, look, Vancouver is the new Shanghai. What is this? This is a pom-pom. Now you got to drop $400 on the Switch 2 and another $60 on that game. So I'm telling you, we can just pirate the damn thing. What's Nintendo going to do? Sue me? because only mad men choose Bulbasaur as a starter. Since the Second Punic War never existed in my book, we might as well say that I can finally ROM hack these things to import my level 100 Lugia. So they say that method acting isn't real, then explain RDJ in TT. And that's why the Chinese Empire is going to lose the war. Why? Because their chakras all messed up. You know, she's got his first son shooting up to the Dan R6, only for the damn J20 jets and the Beidou system forming the spider web, which, you know, of course, connected to the eye, like the Chinese radars. You know, yin and yang, basic Taoist stuff. And what is this? So this is what we call a sword, Chinese Kung Fu. It has the gong, you go bang that thing. Play one instrument, of course, yes. Now, there's 10 warlords here, and you might think all of them marching on Luoyang. Dong Zhuo, Empire in Chaos. What does he do? Get a concubine. Diao Chan was a man. Now, one general, Lu Bu. Does Liu Bei care? No. This is attrition. 3v1 at the Hulao Gate. And 5 rounds deep, you see his red hair is already tired. Because they did the propaganda wrong. Liu Bu's armor cost more than the entire Wei army. Now. Still got the victory. 3 kingdoms.
So hopefully, you know, I don't even have to explain anything anymore about what Professor Zhao meant, or Zhang, or whatever the fuck his name is, because obviously his nephew there cleared it right up. Shout out to David Zhang, who posted that at David Zhang 360. That made more sense than what the CCP propagandist said. And yes, guys, he is a CCP propagandist. He literally lives in Beijing. Anyhow, let's see. Let's talk about this right now.
In the federal trial of a Pakistani man, prosecutors accuse him of plotting to assassinate American political leaders, including President Trump. He says Iran was behind it all. Alexis McAdams is outside the Brooklyn Federal Courthouse in New York City. Alexis.
Hi, Harris. Yeah, an interesting case that really not a lot of viewers knew about when it happened in 2024 because President Trump was out on the campaign trail and there was so much going on and so many other threats. But that's when police say Asif Merchant came here from Pakistan because he says Iranian leadership told him to, said hunt down President Trump, hire a couple of guys that can take him out at a political rally. So take a look here on your screen. This is who we're talking about. He's sitting there inside of that Brooklyn Federal Courthouse right now as those closing arguments are underway. 47 years old. He's facing federal terrorism charges and could spend the rest of his life behind bars. Merchant testified, Harris, in his own federal trial, and he explained this, making this drawing again that he said Iranian leaders gave him back in 2024. Really doesn't look like there's much to it. It looks like, you know, like a kid drew it or something, but that's the sketch of a rally site. Merchant was arrested just one day before Trump was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, and later told the feds that he believed Iran was behind that attack because it was so similar to the plan that they gave him. Kind of get up in an elevated place, go to a rally, and create all this chaos so the gunman can get away. Merchant says Iran wants revenge for the killing of their top military leader, Qasem Soleimani. And threats continue as the U.S. just bombed Iran and took out its Ayatollah. So we're expecting even more threats here, possibly on the homeland, according to the feds. Back out here live in Brooklyn, prosecutors say the evidence, Harris, is pretty damning in this case. They say he actually paid 2 FBI agents thousands of dollars in cash, telling them to take out President Trump because he thought they were hitmen, and then also a lot of other things, including writing the entire thing down on a hotel napkin. So
that is another aspect to this, that apparently Iran, according to this man who has now confessed, was behind the attempts on Donald Trump. Now, he claims that Iran was behind, what's his name, in Butler. I don't know whether or not that's true, but the FBI claims that he is behind at least 2 other attempts on Trump as well. Definitely possible. Still have no idea what's up with the other guy that tried to kill Trump a few weeks later, but whatever. Which, by the way, guys, everywhere that you go, especially if you live in a major city right now, but even if you don't, everywhere that you go right now, remember that these people attack as lone wolf terrorists. Keep your head on a swivel, stay armed, and just remember that we are actively bombing a country right now, a country that has militants inside of our country. We just saw people chanting "Death to America" in New York City. So be careful. But that's point number 2. And the reason I'm going through these points, of course, is to get to the overall point. We'll come back to that one in a minute, on whether or not this has benefit for us or not. We'll take a look at the strategy here in a minute. Let me see what I'm trying to remember.
Apparently.
Okay, let's take here to listen to this kid's criticisms, because they are relevant to what we're talking about. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, we'll know after we watch it here, but I think this kid, the reason I put this in the show map for tonight is because he made some fair criticisms, I think. Let's see.
So the U.S. and Israel have been bombing Iran now for 6 days. 6 days. At a cost of about $10 billion and an economic cost of about $210 billion. Now, I have one very simple question, the same question that I'm sure we are all asking right now. What the fuck are we actually trying to do here? Because apparently, nobody in this administration got the memo of what they're supposed to say. Day 1, it was about a regime change. Okay, sure, we're going full Iraq here. Day 2, no wait, it's actually about a nuclear program. Classic. Day 3, it's about ballistic missiles and protecting U.S. troops from an imminent Iranian attack. Okay, sure. Day 4, we're back to a program.
Hold on.
Classic. Day 3, it's about ballistic missiles. Nobody in this administration got the memo of what they're supposed to say. Day 1, it was about a regime change. Okay, sure, we're going full Iraq here. Day 2, no wait, it's actually about a nuclear program. Classic. Day 3, it's about ballistic missiles and protecting U.S. troops from an imminent Iranian attack. Okay, sure. Day 4, we're back to a regime change. Day 5, we're sinking the Iranian Navy now. Sure, why not add that to the list? Senator Mark Warner, the top Democrat on the Senate Intel Committee, said this about Rubio after Rubio gave them a briefing. I'm not sure which of those goals, if met, means we're at an endgame. Yeah, me and you both, Mark Warner. Now, to be fair, Carolyn Leavitt and the White House finally did release a clean version of what the goal is. Destroy their nuclear program, degrade their missiles, cut...
Alright, I'm trying to keep up with this. Destroy nuclear. Degrade missiles. Cut off. I know I'm not as fast as Professor
off their
G.
funding to terrorist regimes.
Funding to terror. Okay.
That is an actual real case you can make, and reasonable people can decide if they want to debate that or not. Problem is that they keep bringing up this regime change, including when Trump went on Truth Social at 2:30 a.m., and basically said, hey, Iran, we're finished, take over your government. It's important to call out the fact that historians have correctly pointed to the fact that airstrikes have never led to a regime change. Not one single time in history. And after the supreme leader was killed in Iran, Iran immediately set up a 3-person successor who have the same ideology, just with different faces. Cool, we fixed it. And amidst this flip-flopping of the reason why we're in Iran is going on, we attempted to try and rein in presidential executive power to not send us into a war without congressional approval, but didn't pass. Seriously, fuck this guy. Maybe Iran folds. Maybe a new government arises. Maybe a nuclear threat disappears. That's the dream. But right now, nobody, not the White House, not Congress, not experts, not historians, can tell you exactly what would be able to create that based off of what they are saying the purpose of us being there is. And meanwhile, conservatives are posting this because even they're not sure what to do right now.
President Trump is not starting a war with Iran. President Trump is ending a 47-year-long war with Iran.
We stand for the flag if you don't like it. I am watching so many videos of the Iranian women celebrating in the streets, and there are some baddies. Can we please swap out the liberals for these Iranian baddies?
Yep.
I don't know what the point of those videos at the end were. Okay, look. Let's start with, we'll work backwards here. Airstrikes have never led to regime change. True. As far as I can tell. I didn't look, but I can't think of one. That's probably correct. However, every situation is different, and the way that we're handling this situation is different than any other. And on top of that, it very much matters when you choose to make a move. I think that as much as I don't like that we're doing this, as I've said many times now, I think that making the move when we did was extremely prudent. I also think it was necessary only because Trump drew the red line in the sand. Don't kill protesters or we will respond to that. They killed protesters. That really left us no choice besides Trump looking weak on the international stage. But remember what happened when Obama drew a red line in the sand with Iran and then did absolutely nothing about it. It fucked us. So, you know, from that perspective, Trump didn't really have a choice. But this does have an opportunity for regime change. And the reason is very simple. We're not bombing Iran. We're bombing the Ayatollah and the Muslims in Iran, or the IRGC, I should say. Not all the Muslims, but the Muslim control of Iran. Iran, the Persian people, are very diverse and made up of multiple sects. Professor G taught us that. Obviously, it's well known. Christians, secularists, all different groups of people, all different groups of beliefs. But the vast majority believe they don't want to live under the Muslims anymore. The Muslim regime has been awful to the people of Iran. But they haven't had an opportunity to retaliate. They tried to a few weeks ago, but they don't have guns. They don't have weapons. They've been disarmed for 30 plus years. And when the government holds all the weapons, there's not much you can do. The reason why those of us that understand the Second Amendment fight so vigorously to maintain it and to maintain it as robustly as possible. For that reason, that's why they're celebrating in the streets with every bomb that drops. By getting rid of this violent regime that has been oppressing the Persian people, it gives them the opportunity to take over their government. And what he said was wrong. President Trump didn't say, we're done, take over your government. He said, be ready to take control of your government when we are done. Very different. But, so he's correct in the sense that, you know, airstrikes have never led to regime change, but this is a different situation by far. Iran is not Iraq. Iran is not Afghanistan. It's Iran, and it's very different. Now, can we take out enough of the IRGC from the air? That remains to be seen. But so far, we're doing a damn good job. Okay, he also went through a list of several things. His list was incorrect, by the way, of saying day one they said this, day two. It's not exactly how it went. Yes, they haven't been perfectly clear on the message. But the reason for that is, one, Because the media was asking different people every day. It wasn't as if Trump came out and said one thing one day and then something different the next day and then something different the day after that. Rubio said something, Trump said something, Levitt said something else, and then they decided to all get on the same page, and they said all of those things in one paper. It's because all of those things are part of the goal. They are the goal. They are the hope of what ends up happening. Can we guarantee it? No, you can never guarantee an outcome in war. But so far, things are looking real good. They are. Let's see. So regime change is the biggest concern, right? But that's kind of up to the Iranian people. As long as we don't try to control the regime change, I don't see any issue. What regime could be worse than one that has been trying to obtain a nuclear weapon and chance death to America day in and day out? Like, legitimately, what could be worse than that for us? Nothing. I guess a more competent one, but that's about it. Let's see. Destroying their missiles, that's obviously on the table. And then he says the Navy, why wouldn't we do that? Well, of course we will. It's part of the IRGC. What we are doing is eliminating Iran's ability to wage war, both against their own people and against the rest of the region. Because Iran has been a thorn in the side, not just of Israel, not just of America, but of the entire region for decades. There's a reason that the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, all of these other places were more than happy to let us do this. Like I said, the Board of Peace met 1 week before this attack. And my guess is, the Board of Peace, by the way, includes every country that surrounds Iran, plus a lot more. There's actually a surprising number of countries involved. But my guess is the Board of Peace decided that there cannot be peace in the Middle East as long as the Muslim control of Iran stands. Believe that, don't believe that. I think that that is the most obvious fact that we can point to. So, destroying their nuclear ambitions. And a lot of people are saying, well, I thought we did that before. Yeah, we destroyed their current ballistic missile program and their current enriching. But they swore to keep rebuilding it. Right now, we're eliminating any traces that are left. And we're eliminating the people that swore to rebuild it. Here's the thing, guys. This is what I think a lot of Americans, and especially conservatives, don't understand what we're dealing with here. These are people that have been swearing to destroy us for 250 years. Literally, since America's founding. Okay? All we've done is be unprovokingly attacked by the same group of Muslims. Not always, they weren't always in Iran. I mean, yes and no, but they were all through the region, right? But over the course of 250 years, they've more condensed into Iran. Anyway, for 250 years, we've been unprovokingly attacked by the same group of Muslims. We've repelled that attack. We've crushed their ability to wage war. They agree to peace because we spare them, but crush their ability to wage war. They agree, rebuild, and as soon as they're strong enough, unprovokingly attack again. We crush their ability to wage war. We offer peace. They agree. They rebuild. They attack again. This has happened over and over and over and over. And yes, at best, all we're going to get out of this is killing their, or I shouldn't say at best, but probably at worst, at least most likely, what we'll at least get out of this is that we will crush their ability to wage war for now. That will buy us between, 5 and 50 years of peace because they will have no ability to wage war. Will it be perfect peace? No. But it'll be far better. They won't have missiles. They won't have nukes. And hopefully, the Muslims that are the ones that are causing the problem, the ones whose religion orders that they destroy America, destroy Israel, and kill non-believers, will be exiled. Where will they go? What will they do? I don't know. Probably move to Iraq or Afghanistan, take over there, and start all over again. The fact is, until we're willing to wipe this problem out, we're going to continue to have it. But at least we can buy another 10 to 50 years of peace. And the fact is, at this very moment, the Iranian people were ready to do away with their government. They just didn't have the means to do it. We did. And so it was prudent of us to take advantage of this moment, I think, because it prevents us from having to go in and convince the people that they want to do away with the regime. They were already convinced. All they needed was the regime to be weakened so that they could. We're not bombing Iran. We're bombing the regime and the regime's ability to wage war. Again, take that how you will. That is what the goal is. Let me rephrase that. All of those things are part of the goal. There's more to it than just that, okay, that we get out of it. Let me pull up the map here. Sorry, I gotta stop eating these on camera because they make my mouth water. I can't talk. But they're so good. All right. Why are you not showing me? Hang on here. I gotta figure out how to put the overlays on it. Where are the overlays? No, not that one. There we go. All right. This is Iran. We got Iraq to the left, Afghanistan to the right. Turkmenistan up here, Pakistan down here, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Israel's over here, Palestine, this tiny little sliver right here, or right here, sorry. I actually want to see real quick. Let's take a look. I'm curious. Are these old maps? No, you can see stuff's blown up. Still a lot of buildings there. Boy, if you look at that difference, you can tell what part is Gaza and which part is Israel, huh? So, we see all the time these photos of these areas that are just flattened, but if this is actual current imagery, there you go. So this is flattened over here. So it looks like, yeah, we are frequently lied to. And look, I'm not here to defend Israel, okay? I don't care at all about Israel. But I don't believe the Gazans, or Hamas, or the Palestinians, rather, for a minute. I don't believe the IRGC for a minute. And I definitely take what Israel says with a grain of salt, unless I can prove it. Okay, so we can see that there are a lot more heavy damage here, although most of these buildings are still standing. You can see, like, blown up, blown up, blown up, blown up, blown up. Okay, I shouldn't say a lot. Some of these buildings are still standing. This one's still standing. This one. Anyway, so there's a lot blown up right here. But see, even over here, nothing. No destruction. All of this. No destruction. So this is a lot of tents and stuff. Probably temporary houses. All the way down here. No destruction. None. Literally the only thing I see leftist posts anymore is how destroyed this place is. But look at this. There's still a ton of Gaza left. Let me ask Grok real quick and just see if we can get an estimate. Leftists on X frequently show images making it appear that Gaza has just been razed from end to end. Is this true? What percentage of Gaza has actually been bombed? Google Maps shows overall a fairly small portion, maybe 20%. I'm going to check and see when this map is from here. If you're wondering why I'm looking all over, because I don't remember where you go. There we go, historical imagery. So this is a 2024 image. Okay. So well after the vast majority of the bombing campaign. And we can go back, let's go back. Let me come over here where it was raised. God dang it, where was it? I gotta back out further because I can't see. So this is the West Bank. And it's still intact, obviously. The Gaza Strip down here. Okay. Sorry, I got all messed up for a second. There you go. Okay, so this area right here, flattened. Let's go back to 2023. There you go. 2022. 2023. Oh, still there in 2023. 2024. Now flattened. Okay. Okay, but again, we come over here. Look at that. Every building still standing. Not flattened. Well, I tell you, this sure paints a different picture than even what I believed Gaza looked like. And it explains why, when you look at it on a map like this, why this has been so difficult for Israel. I still think they probably should have wrapped the war by now. But sorry, this isn't super related. I was just curious because I haven't looked on Google Maps at Gaza in a while. And like I said, all I've seen is images making it look like the entire place has been razed. But in reality, yes, there are significant portions, as one would expect. But it's not the whole place. And even here, most of these buildings are still intact. Would I live in them without them being reinforced? Probably not. But you can see only specific buildings were hit, and the rest of these are mostly just covered in debris. But again, these are small portions out of the Gaza Strip. Let's go back and see what Grok said. No, the pictures that depict Gaza completely razed from end to end are not accurate. While the destruction is extensive, no doubt, and catastrophic in some areas, particularly northern Gaza, including Gaza City, parts of Khan Yunis, and certain neighborhoods in Rafah, the Gaza Strip as a whole has not been uniformly flattened. Significant portions, especially in the far south, or less densely targeted zones, show less visible damage on satellite or Google Maps. Reliable assessments come primarily from satellite imagery. United Nations satellite, along with cross-reference reports from the UN, World Bank, and independent researchers. These use before and after comparisons to classify structures in destroyed, severely damaged, moderately damaged, or possibly damaged. UNOSAT, based on satellite imagery, approximately 81% of all structures in Gaza are damaged or destroyed. Yeah, that definitely was not 81%. And see, this is part of the problem, is all of these independent places, all left-wing. It includes 123,000 fully destroyed structures out of an estimated total affected of around 198. Earlier, UNOSAT updates around 78%. Housing specific estimates often higher. UN humanitarian reports citing 92%. Damaged or destroyed. Regional variations, northern areas, Gaza City, North Gaza Governorate have suffered the worst, with figures often exceeding 90%, 83% in some assessments. BBC Guardian 78%, some analysis 60 to 70. I'm asking Grok if he can analyze the images himself and estimate for us, because to me, at least based on my eye, it doesn't look anything like 80%. Maybe 50. I'll take 50, not 80. See what he says. Okay. He's still just giving me based on reports from the UN and stuff, but the UN is very, very biased. Farms look like they're completely okay. Oh, I guess except that one. All these buildings are okay. It's kind of hard to tell because buildings look like shit anyway, but that's interesting. All right. Wonder what these are. You can see them growing all over the place. They're obviously some kind of tree, but they must be olive trees, maybe? Lots of roads cut through. This must be close to where either humanitarian or military is staging. Or at least where they were at some point. That's the armistice line. Alright, that changes my opinion some. Actually looking at this with my own eyes and seeing that it's not nearly as bad as what some would have you claim. I mean, there's no doubt this is extensive devastation, but you know, often comes the question, what does one expect when you attack somebody capable of that kind of devastation over and over and over and over and over and over and over again? Busy street. See, all this is still green. There's some, looks like some bombing in here. Mostly still standing untouched. The amphitheater? Oh, a school. Interesting. Okay. Well, there you go. So, and then in the north end here, this is where a lot of damage has taken place. Although, as you can see, still a lot of this standing here. Go back, 2023. 2024. Definitely a lot of damage here. Huh. 1985. Oh, not that much in 1985. Okay. Well, and 2004, it looks like, is the earliest we get, and only about that much resolution. Whoa. How's that black and white? Must have been an old satellite that was going over. All right. Sorry, guys. Oh, I just realized that that wasn't on screen. Hopefully that wasn't that way the whole time. Anyway, as we can see, Gaza is not nearly as razed as they've led us to believe. Does that matter? I guess that depends on what you believe. But again, I'm not here to defend Israel. I don't give a crap. I think that Israel had every right to wage the war in Gaza. I do think that, you know, it has gone on long enough and that they need to switch what they're doing. But I don't have the right answers either. As for the war in Iran, though, we've talked about some of the advantages. So some of the goals are to eliminate their missile stockpile, to end all nuclear capabilities, and to eliminate the regime that chants death to America, and to hopefully allow the people of Iran to institute a new government. Let's see, did they say anything else? Destroy nuclear, degrade missiles, cut off... Oh, yeah, and cut off funding to other terrorist regimes, which, of course, does have a profound effect for most of the world. They suicide bomb all over the world. Europe, Australia, America, and, of course, the Middle East. As well as Africa, even. So that's no small task either. But I think that the bigger win in this for America, right here. Did you know that since the beginning of this, since last month, China has not harassed Taiwan a single time? They've been doing it daily for years. They have not harassed Taiwan a single time since last month. A big part of that, because of this right here. Even though Iran's letting Chinese ships through, it's still incredibly high risk. And just to get a ship from here, well, here to here, is about $400,000 alone. Let me see if I can pull up real fast. Let me see if I can pull up the man. There we go. Okay. Good Lord, look at all the boats. So, United States, Africa, South America, right? Vast majority travel from here to here and here to here. Boy, this is just incredible to look at. Anyway, let's get into the important area up here. As you can see, there are lots of boats out here just hanging out. So let me try and get an idea. Doesn't help much. Okay. So it looks like the arrows might be cargo ships. Yep. And it does look like traffic's flowing at the moment. But you can see, big pile up right here. And big pile up right here. People waiting to get through there to there. Let me see if I can get a distance across right here. No, don't show my location. Where's this stupid distance tool? There it is. Okay, it's 60 miles, it looks like, at roughly its shortest point. So let's see if that's 60. This looks like it might be a little shorter at just under 60. But there you go. And because of this, what's happening? China is not getting its oil. In fact, they've ordered a halt on all oil exports at the moment. I wonder if I can narrow by country here. Let's see, or type of boat, maybe? So let's see if anything has moved through the strait here. There's a couple boats, like, right around it. That's a funny looking boat. Okay, refresh. Nope, I don't see any movement. Nope. Okay. Man, I don't know what boat. Hmm. There we go. Let's take a look at just the underway boats. Okay, so these boats are underway. And these ones are anchored. Underway. Okay, so the arrows mean they're underway. Dots mean they're anchored. Gotcha. Let's get rid of passenger vessels, high-speed craft, tugs and special craft, fishing, and pleasure. So there you go. As you can see, basically nothing is moving through there. And every minute that that's happening is good for us and bad for China. Kind of like the dark map. Okay. Just out of curiosity. Wow. Good lord. Let's take a look at Cuba. Compare Cuba just to Florida. You want to see the difference that socialism makes? Look at this. Look at this. There is not a single dense port in the whole country. Now come up here and look at Florida. Absolutely incredible. Come over here. New Orleans. Texas. Corpus Christi right there. Just incredible. Must be fishing boats. Wow, look at that. Still no way to narrow it down, though, by state, apparently. Or by country, rather. Okay. Well, there you have it. Nothing's moving. absolutely incredible when you think about it, that we can track every boat on the planet. It also makes me wonder, when I was out here in the Pacific, commercial fishing, it was pretty sparse. Keep in mind that from here to here is probably 100 miles or more. But let's see, what's the scale of the map? Yeah, that's it. At least 100 miles in between those two boats. Wrong one. All right. Anyway, guys. I know this is thrilling for you guys on audio. I apologize. The point is, this serves a huge role in neutering China. Without Venezuela and without Iran, China is screwed. Russia, not so much. They have a lot more oil. But now China's going to have to depend on Russia a lot more. A lot more. And that relationship is already tenuous, at best. Unfortunately, this does have a negative effect to driving them together a little bit, but no plan is perfect. Let's take a look at, just since we've looked at a lot of videos criticizing how we're waging this war, let's take a look at one that is doing the opposite here. And gives a competent explanation of how we are actually going about this here.
This is week 2 is about taking away the enemy's ability to hit back. First up is the Jushin. When this Iranian fast attack craft approached a U.S. surface action group, it fired a U.S.-made Harpoon missile, a remnant from pre-revolution arms sales. The U.S. cruiser USS Wainwright successfully evaded it using electronic countermeasures and chaff. The U.S. ships instantly returned fire, sinking the Jushin in what became the world's first ever missile duel between warships.
So this is back in the 80s, the last time we sank Iran's entire navy.
Then came the Sahand. This Iranian frigate sailed out to challenge the U.S. fleet and fired at passing aircraft. The response was immediate. Navy attack jets and the destroyer USS Joseph Strauss swarmed the vessel, pummeling the Sahand with missiles and heavy bombs until it caught fire and ultimately sank after its own munitions detonated. Later that same afternoon, a third ship, the Savalan, tried its luck. The frigate fired a surface-to-air missile at a U.S. jet. The pilot simply dodged the missile, looped right back around, and dropped a 500-pound laser-guided bomb directly down the ship's exhaust stack. The internal explosion completely crippled the vessel. The overarching goal behind all of this was to secure the Strait of Hormuz, the single most critical choke point for global oil. Then comes the third week, launching $2 billion stealth bomber again to hit the underground nuclear programs. The problem is, these aren't just buildings you can level. They are heavily fortified subterranean labyrinths buried deep beneath solid rock. If you wait too long, the enemy moves their most critical assets, nuclear enrichment fuels, into impenetrable bunkers. So the military drops this specialized deep penetration munitions, massive bunker busters designed to slice through the earth and detonate inside the mountain. It's a surgical, violent procedure meant to collapse the underground networks entirely, setting the nuclear program back by decades. By week 4, you've achieved full air superiority. The massive bombing campaigns stop, and the hunting game begins. F-22 Raptors and F-15s take over, aggressively patrolling the entirety of Iranian airspace. They are kept continuously aloft by a steady rotation of flying tankers. It becomes a highly coordinated hunt. Targets are identified by Space Force satellites and Central Command, with the data fed straight to the fighters, usually directed by an E-2D Hawkeye command plane. The primary strategy here is to avoid a ground occupation entirely. Instead, the U.S. controls the battle space from above. Striking from the air, the absolute second a target exposes itself. They are specifically hunting for missile launchers, which are typically tucked away in hidden underground facilities. But the Iranians retain a critical strategic advantage. By utilizing the narrow geography of the Strait of Hormuz, they can still launch devastating close-range strikes against the U.S. Navy fleet. By waiting in ambush near expected carrier movements, Yatter-class submarines could fire a coordinated torpedo strike, targeting the hull and propulsion systems of U.S. carriers. A successful torpedo strike on an aircraft carrier could disable its flight deck operations, significantly reducing the U.S. Navy's ability to project air power in the region. Additionally, these submarines could lay underwater mines in critical sea lanes, forcing U.S. warships into predetermined ambush zones where Iranian missile and drone attacks could follow up. But if the Iranian disabled a Navy carrier, can the U.S. still fight back? The answer is yes. Focusing only on the slow-moving ships is a mistake. The United States holds an ace up its sleeve that doesn't need to wait for a clear shipping lane. Even without a carrier strike group, the U.S. can deliver precision strikes for weeks to come. This is the domain of Air Force Global Strike Command. They can deploy the big 3 strategic bombers anywhere in the world in just 24 hours. First, you have the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. This is the door kicker. It is the only aircraft in history capable of taking off from Missouri, flying nonstop to Iran, penetrating the most advanced air defense networks undetected, and dropping massive bunker busters on deep underground facilities. Second, the B-1B Lancer, known as the Bow. This supersonic heavy hitter carries the largest payload of any U.S. bomber. It can dash in at high speed and low altitude to deliver massive barrages of cruise missiles or satellite-guided bombs to clear the path. And finally, the B-52 Stratofortress. It may look old, but do not underestimate it. It acts as a flying missile truck, capable of launching long-range cruise missiles from hundreds of miles away, well outside the reach of Iranian air defenses. Let's take a look at how this works. The first line attack involves the B-2 stealth bomber moving in to destroy high-value air defense systems like the famous S-400 Triumph and other surface-to-air missiles, effectively disabling them by using its stealth technology. Next, the B-1 Lancer flies at a very low altitude towards enemy targets to take out older anti-aircraft guns and missiles. This clears the way for conventional aircraft like the B-52 Stratofortress, which can then sweep in to destroy any critical infrastructure without facing anti-aircraft threats. This is the reason they need both the B-2 stealth bomber and conventional bombers, as there are only 19 units of the B-2 Spirit in service to date. Let's shift our focus back to the aircraft carriers. It begs the question, how can a single ship and its crew sustain such a grueling, relentless workload for 4 solid weeks? The reality is, they don't do it alone. To maintain that level of presence and power, you need 2 aircraft carriers. Instead, they will trade entire shifts. This is the doctrine of the battle rhythm. But why do you need this battle rhythm strategy for a carrier strike group? Imagine a floating city with nuclear fuel and 5,000 people. Without a system, it's chaos. Simply put, battle rhythm is the daily heartbeat of the ship. It synchronizes the admiral's decisions with the sailor's sweat. There are 2 pulses. First, the operational pulse. This is the air plan. For 12 to 15 hours, the ship runs continuous cycle operations, launching and catching jets every 60 to 90 minutes. It is a deafening, non-stop assembly line of violence. Second, the command pulse.
So I play that just to demonstrate. Obviously, it's not quite accurate to what played out because this was actually made and posted before this breakout. But I posted that to point out, because we've watched a lot of videos criticizing the United States recently, and Iran's winning this war, and they're dragging us into a war of attrition, and yada yada. Our military doctrine, and our methods of waging war are so far complex beyond the understanding of the vast majority of militaries on this planet. Not beyond their understanding, or at least ability to understand, but well beyond the abilities of their own militaries, that trying to comprehend the level at which we have turned war into a science is not easily done. I mean, there are Americans that have spent their entire lives studying the U.S. military and its effectiveness at turning warfare into a science. Now, there's some downsides to that, too. Like I said, one of the reasons Germany lost the war in World War II is because they were the far vastly technical side, and that over-complexity leads to a lot of problems. One of the reasons we won the war was because we made good equipment that was simple, and we were able to make a lot of it. And we'd do wise to remember those important facts and simplify certain aspects of our military. Things like the operation of the carriers should be complex. Things like missiles should be very simple, and overwhelming rather than one missile, one hit, I think, personally. Regardless, that's obviously oversimplifying it too. But anyway, we'll discuss this a little more here and stuff in a minute. Let me take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk about a few more things regarding China and why this war is in our favor, probably more so than it's in Israel's favor. And I'll summarize my point on whether or not we're fighting this war for ourselves or for Israel. right, let's get back into it. So, obviously, there's been a lot of propaganda going around since the beginning of this war from all sides. And here's another good example of it right here from the Chinese perspective. All right, I gotta get my feed straight. There we go. So what you're looking at here is apparently the Atlanta airport in Georgia. Sorry, I didn't realize this music was so ridiculous. It's apparently the Atlanta airport in Georgia, and this is a Chinese satellite, allegedly, tracking it on AI. And what they are allegedly showing, I don't speak Chinese, so fair note. What they're allegedly showing is that they're able to gather all this intel via their satellites. Duh. As you can see, the resolution is very poor here. It's perhaps... I don't even know. I don't even hesitate to guess, but it's not great. Maybe it's their best, maybe it's their not. Who cares? This technology has been around since the 90s. Like, it's not a surprise that they're able to do this. But what they're showing is that they can map, it can map an aircraft carrier. Well, first of all, an aircraft carrier is about this big. This little area right here. That's about the size of an aircraft carrier. If we want to be generous, we could say it's this big. But it's not much bigger than one of these planes as far as length. And so, while they're able to map these massive planes going around on the runway, and I just realized the scale on this doesn't quite seem right. But perhaps it is, I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway. The point is, they're able to map at this scale, but if an aircraft carrier is only this big, are they going to be able to map the planes taking off from that? Who knows? Either way, it doesn't matter. Because, one, again, this technology is nothing new. Lots of countries can do this. There's nothing special about this. And so the propaganda that's being pushed here is that we've handed the Chinese an encyclopedia on our military doctrines. As if our military doctrine for attacking Iran is our military doctrine for fighting China. But regardless, they're trying to, wage a fear campaign, basically, that, well, they know us inside and out now. I've been saying it for a long time. China is already at war with us. They cannot take us on militarily. So, they use fentanyl, they use TikTok to divide and to depress, to try and harm our birth rate. They obviously have bought up a lot of U.S. land. They try to buy up farmland, control our food supply. Why we allow it, I have no idea. Many other things, right? They tried to use lead paint in toys to lower birth rates in the past. All sorts of things. Obviously, we do just fine harming ourselves, but Americans have to accept that just because we want peace does not mean our enemies do. Does not mean that our enemies will not take advantage of our peace to destroy us. Iran is a perfect example. And whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, and I certainly don't like that it's happening right now. But whether either of us likes it, Iran has sworn to destroy us over and over and over. They say publicly, or said publicly, all the time, that they are amassing enough weapons to destroy us. Why would we sit around and wait for them to achieve that. It doesn't make sense. Does this benefit Israel? A little bit. A little bit. Israel has had no problem keeping Hezbollah, keeping Hamas, and Iran at bay. The 12-day war 6 months ago, Iran did nothing to retaliate. I mean, yeah, they sent some rockets, but virtually nothing. Both the U.S. and Israel came out of that entirely unscathed. Just like we'll come out of this, relatively speaking, pretty much entirely unscathed. It remains to be seen. You know, we might suffer a catastrophic loss, maybe a battleship or something like that. It's extremely unlikely, but it's always possible when you're firing rockets back and forth at each other. But even at that, we have like 60 ships in the Middle East right now. Even if we lost one, that's technically speaking nothing. In the meantime, we're gaining valuable military experience. See, the thing that's more important, the reason I showed you this Chinese propaganda, the thing that's really important and more important than being able to study your enemy at war is being at war. It's experience. Chinese troops have no 21st century experience. Almost everybody alive in the Chinese army has never fired their gun in battle. America's military is constantly cycling through different engagements throughout the world. That keeps us sharp. That helps us learn new tactics, new techniques, what works, what doesn't work. We're learning right now. Where are the vulnerabilities in the systems? Found some. We found others that were great. For example, our stealth technology, our F-35s, the most recent fighter jet on the scene in any country. F-22s, been around for about 20 years now. And our F-15s and 16s, been around for 50 years now. And our B-2s, which have been around for 35, 40 years now, were all long thought to be entirely, completely obsolete. The F-35 had some things going for it in that it had longer firing ranges than a lot of the missile batteries that could take it down, as well as other aircraft. So it was still believed that the F-35 could, at least from a standoff distance, handle some engagement. It also proved to be extremely useful, especially with its 25mm cannon and the F-22's 20mm cannon, at taking down the cheap drones. But the stealth technology on these planes was long thought to be obsolete. Our ability to jam enemy radars and lock-on systems, all of these things were entirely unproven. We had never had an opportunity to use them, particularly against the number one systems, Russian and Chinese. Now, Ukraine provided some valuable information, especially when we captured one of Russia's latest radar units. It was like a container system, and it contained a lot of their jamming equipment and stuff. We obtained that early in the war, when Russia advanced too far and then had to retreat. That was extremely valuable to us. And what Venezuela and now Iran has taught us is that our jamming systems, 100% effective. We fly with complete impunity over Chinese and Russian technology. That is huge. That is massive information. We've also proven, via the strike on Fordham, that even without the jamming technology, because I do not believe that anything other than the F-18, no. Is it Is it just an F-15 variant? I forget. Whichever one it is, the Eagle, which is a fighter version of a jamming plane. We have two main types. We have the E-3s or whatever, which are our main jamming planes, and we use those for air dominance when we have many fighter jets and bombers in the air. And then we also have smaller planes that are jet fighters, essentially, but they are able to run jamming equipment and stuff in a smaller area to cover a small contingent of planes, like when we went and did the attacks on Fordham, where we only sent, a few B-2s and a few escorting planes. We weren't trying to dominate the skies. So anyway, what we learned is that even our 40-year-old B-2s, which were thought to be obsolete for at least 20 years, still fly with complete impunity. And we can jam these radars with complete impunity. That type of information is invaluable to the military. And we are gaining more every day. Now, does that mean we should just go wage war anytime to gain this information? No. But, as I've already illustrated earlier in the episode, there are many other things that we are gaining from this, including choking China, who is already in the middle of an economic catastrophe. Losing 20% of their oil supply in the middle of that, it's going to kill them. Does that get rid of China as a threat completely? No. But it buys us 5 years, 10 years of them having to focus internally rather than on us. It buys us time to do more things. I think a lot of people don't see the bigger picture here. Venezuela, Iran, Cuba, these are about China and Russia, not about Venezuela, Iran, and Cuba. All of which were a problem, but not that big of a problem, as we've seen. Will we eliminate the IRGC entirely? If you would have asked me on day one, I would have said no, that's ludicrous. Today, it's still unlikely. But it looks more possible than any of us ever could have possibly imagined. I mean, the effectiveness that we have had in these strikes surpasses anything. Anything. During the Gulf War, we sent... I'll have to look. Hold on. It was hundreds and hundreds of aircraft. How many aircraft? And it was like, 50 countries that contributed. Participated in the joint opening air camp. Let's see. 2,430, that's what I thought. Fixed-wing aircraft from coalition forces, like I said, like 50 countries or something, participated in the opening salvo of the Gulf War. And we didn't achieve half the objectives that we have achieved over Iran with just us and Israel. And what, 2 aircraft carrier groups? That's it? 2 aircraft carrier groups and a few land contingents as well, but we're really not flying that much from land because it's too far. The distance from... Oh, I closed it. Hang on. So most of our aircraft here... Why does it keep turning off these layers? Hang on. Oops, wrong one. I always forget which one it is. That's historical imagery, path, place mark, data layers, contours, studies, new. Is it this one? Yes, this one. Okay, there we go. So again, Iran, right here. This is Iran. We're mostly striking up here by Tehran and kind of along this more border area. This is where most of the missiles and stuff are. There's not a whole lot kind of up in this range because obviously Afghanistan, not a big threat to them. Now, we launched some from Iraq, but we don't have much in Iraq anymore. But we do in Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE, and Dubai. Or Saudi Arabia, sorry, not Dubai. And a little bit in Oman, too. But we promised these countries we would not launch our attack from here. Okay? We fortified some bases in the region, ours and theirs, but we promised we would not launch from here. Jordan is the closest country that agreed to let us launch from, probably, as far over as here. The problem is, launching from Jordan to get to here, let's get a quick distance. Just to get to the border is 500 miles. To get to Tehran is almost 1,000. That means you need mid-air refueling. Now, we could get from Jordan to Tehran, that's great, but then as soon as we're on the flight back, we got to get mid-air refueling, and really, it's probably going to happen on the way in just before we get out of safe airspace. Now, I don't even know if we can fly over Iraq safely. I mean, stealth-wise we can, but we don't want to accidentally cause Iraq to get into a war with us, too. And Iraq, obviously, I don't know exactly how our relations stand with them. I know they don't want any war with us, but I don't know how friendly they are to us either. So we might even had to have flown, down this way to Kuwait and then up here to Iran. Either way, we had to refuel just before crossing the border because we can't have our refueling planes flying over hostile airspace, right? And so for that reason, we haven't really launched anything from the ground. Maybe some long-range strategic bombers and B-52s obviously are coming from over here now that we have air superiority. But the vast majority was being launched from over here off the aircraft carriers because it is a direct shot to a lot of these places, and while it is still far, it is doable. Some of them are over here too. So obviously, the aircraft carrier that's over here, going this way, aircraft carriers over here, going this way. We also have some up here, which, I don't know. Let's see if this is closer or not. It might be closer. Pretty close. Anyway, but the two aircraft carriers, there's one in the Persian Gulf and then one out here, I believe. Either way, I know we had some assets over here. But that is where the vast majority of our attacks were coming from. As far as why I was explaining that, I lost that halfway through. Regardless, when Iran responded and hit Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Oman, all these countries suddenly changed their mind. And we became determined to take out Iran. Another big win for us. It galvanized support for the West that was tentative, to say the least, and it galvanized them against Iran. All of this has been good for the United States. The objectives that we are obtaining in this extended engagement, it's not a war because Congress hasn't declared a war. And as I've said a million times, I'm willing to give it the 90 days. That's what I'll give it. I'll give it the 90 days until Trump must go to Congress and request permission to continue. If he does that, well, then I'll probably turn against him. But up until that point, what we have gained from this in harming China, in harming Russia, in gaining the valuable intel that tells us that we can fly with complete impunity over Russian and Chinese equipment, including their latest radar and tracking equipment, the valuable intelligence that military intelligence that we've gathered aside from those points as well. I don't want to go through the whole list, but the advantages that we have gained in strengthening our allyship, whatever you call it, our relationship with the other countries in the region, like Iraq, Saudi Arabia, UAE, etc., that, like I said, were good before, but not great. This is invaluable to us. It's certainly worth more than what we've spent on the war so far. Now, is anything worth the American lives? No. But you cannot fire missiles and expect nothing bad to happen. Obviously, I don't want to sit here and justify the loss of any American life. The only thing I'll say is you can only expect so much. And while there's a couple things as far as why, this being right or not being right. Again, I don't like the timing. But with the Iranian people already ready to take over their government, they just didn't have the means. The opportunity couldn't have been better. Because we don't have to go and convince the Iranian people that they want to change their government. They are already convinced. They just didn't have the means. Well, now we've given them those means. That's the best case scenario for us. On the regime change front, at least. And while I'm not a big fan of regime change, it's hard to suggest that there could possibly be a worse regime that could end up in charge of Iran. And with all of these surrounding countries now determined to prevent that from happening, we don't have to worry about it. It's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to get them out of the way. The Persian people now can worry about making sure that they get the right government in place. And it just, at the end of the day, I don't believe for a second that Netanyahu can make Trump do anything. Yes, Israel has too much influence in our government. I don't love it. I don't like it at all. I don't want any country to have influence in our government. But it's worth pointing out that while Israel does what's in its best interest and they don't care about our best interest, they're not actively trying to harm us like China is, who also has way too much influence in our government, like Iran was, who also way too much influence. Europe, way too much influence. Many places that, some of which aren't looking to harm us, but aren't looking to help us. Others which are actively looking to harm us that also have influence. So, while I would like to see that influence go away, the idea that we're doing this for Israel is just, it's really just naive at this point. We're gaining plenty from this. And as I said before, too, if Iran actually was about to attack us, then none of it matters. We had no choice but to defend ourselves, and it was smart to attack first. It would have been dumb to sit around and wait for them to attack first just so, to gain a few political points with the American people. Obviously, it would have been easier for Trump, and most politicians would have done that. But I do believe that Trump does actually care about the American people. And maybe he's not the greatest at doing it, at protecting the American people or whatever, right? Acting in their best interest. But there's a difference between genuinely not caring and genuinely caring but failing to act in the best interest. And even if you think he's failing to act in the best interest, I don't think anybody can say reasonably that he doesn't genuinely care about the American people and about America. Look, this country has been nothing but incredible to him, to his family, to his father. Everything that's important to Trump is his family, his empire, and his father, who obviously is dead at this point, but when he was alive. This country has been nothing but amazing to the Trump family. Why wouldn't he love this country? This country has been terrible to a lot of people, and they still love this country. It angers me to see so many supposed conservatives, so many supposed Republicans being so leftist reactionary. It's just kind of nonsense, you know. We could at least give enough opportunity to see how this actually plays out, what's actually going to happen. And while I don't like that this happened now, let's give it the 90 days. That, I think, is the fair thing that we can do for a man that has literally taken a bullet for us. Granted, he got lucky and only took it through the ear. But he's taken fire for us twice. They tried to throw him in jail. They tried to smear him. They tried to take away his empire. I think we owe him 90 days. Let me know what you think. You can send me an email directly, jbu@usa.com, or, of course, comment on the show, x.com/JBU_show. Don't forget to check out my co-host, Austin, at the Miller Talk podcast, millertalk.substack.com. And please follow, share the show at JBU_show on X, JBU.Show on Rumble, YouTube, all of those places. Before we get out of here, let me just... Well, let me think here for just a second. Well, actually, let me just say this. This is what I want to say. The powers that be, and everybody has, their different opinions on exactly who or what those powers are. But the powers that be, that can't stand Trump and want him gone, hang on. Am I still up on X, guys? To move the person to indicate the seat. Oh, got you. Okay. Sorry, I just got a notification that my X account has been locked. I couldn't figure out why. All right, apparently we're good. Anyway, the powers that be that have tried to do all of those things that I just mentioned to Trump. Tried to kill him, tried to jail him, tried to smear him away, basically. Tried to harm his family. They want to divide us on anything that they can. That is why the moment some conservatives express some frustration with this attack, understandably so, but they've pounced on it. It is why, for probably the next 3 months, we will hear nothing but propaganda regarding this, regarding Iran, regarding how we've behaved as far as it goes, what Trump, Trump's decisions, all of that. Because this is really one of the first things that and Epstein, right? We've seen how they've hammered Epstein over and over and over. They now call him the pedo-in-chief. They say that this is the pedo regime. All of these absolutely absurd things that are based on no reality whatsoever. In fact, really the opposite of reality if we're talking about Trump. They're going to continue to hammer it because this is exactly what they want. Not because they're right, because they want Trump gone. And we would be idiots to help them along the road like people like Nick Fuentes are doing. You're going to vote for the people that created all of these problems? I understand. Some of us are not happy with how fast Trump alone, the single man by himself, is not dismantling these systems. But then over here, you have the people that created these systems in the first place and aim to strengthen them and create more. And you're saying that you're better off voting for them than the person that is at least trying, even if failing. Come on. I can't wrap my head around it. With that, guys, my name is Chris, and this has been the JBU Show. We'll see you tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Although it's Saturday, so perhaps earlier. Let's say 6 o'clock for now. I'll put the time up later.
Bye.
Check in x.com/JBU_show and you will get the time. Yeah. For sure.
This is only between us.
This is just between us.
This is just between us.
Perfect. Quick, hit that share button real quick before I end the stream. We're one away.